Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. Please give me a thumbs up if the sound is good. Give me those thumbs up, making sure you hear me loud and clear. Guys, I'm in Las Vegas for the fights this weekend. That's why I'm not in my office as usual. So we're going to have a different scenery for tonight's show. Tonight, we're going to be talking about absolutely anything: fights, fitness, jiu-jitsu, boxing, wrestling, all that good stuff. And then after that, like usual, we open it up to ask me anything. And you guys can ask me all your crazy questions that I know you have. With that said, guys, let's get started on fitness, MMA, jiu-jitsu, boxing, MMA related topics. Guys, don't forget, use the promo code GET55 off and get 55% off anything at jujiclub.com. Make sure to punch in the logo because I can't do anything for you once you pay and you didn't punch in the logo. Okay, guys, please don't make me have to go and punch it in for you. You guys know how to do it. It's real simple. I've been doing stability ball. Thanks to you struggling to switch from one hand to standing. That's from Talal. Talal, keep working it, man. Eventually you're going to be able to stand on the ball. And once you can stand on the ball for 10 minutes, you know your legs are rock solid, okay? Of course, that's not a complete program, but that's the most important. I would say if you could stand on the stability ball for 10 minutes straight, and of course, if you could squat up and down, you're golden. After that, it's really getting really good at the lunge matrix. So I really think there's a bunch of exercises in there, but you don't need to do every exercise under the sun. Stability ball training and lunge matrix, in my opinion, is the ultimate duo. Okay, guys, I gotta put somebody in timeout here. No spamming the chat, guys. If you spam the chat, you go in timeout. I have to put you in timeout like a little kid. I'm going to give my boy here 10 minutes. Okay, no spamming, please. Coach Zahabi, why are your jiu-jitsu instructors handing out black belts to MMA fighters when they didn't deserve it? That's from MS Made It. I don't know who you're talking about. Okay, so you'd have to be specific. I have no idea who you're talking about. How often would you practice boxing? How often would you practice boxing with 2 to 5 pound weights? That's from Nicholas. I like that. Shadow boxing with weights in your hands. I think that's really, really good. I really like it because it feels like you're throwing a heavy object and you can kind of like kind of perfect your mechanics. I'm a big believer in holding weights, but not too heavy. I would say 2 pounds, 1 pound, 3 pounds is good. It's really about shifting your body weight and kind of creating that kinetic chain, feeling every link in the kinetic chain and trying to getting all moving. And it's really good for shadow boxing, for the shoulders as well. Sometimes you got to punch high for a few minutes, develop those shoulders. Make sure that when you're fighting, your shoulders they have really great endurance. Hey, Coach, last stream you skipped my question. I wanted to ask you, do you have a recommendation on how to improve cardio for BJJ? I often find myself getting passed after 2 rolls. That's from Diesel. Diesel, jiu-jitsu cardio is really simple. Okay, you got to roll often. Now, if you're not rolling, you'll never have good jiu-jitsu you'll never have good jiu-jitsu cardio. Okay, you got to do the sport in question. Then after that, on the side, you got to develop your athleticism. Okay, so it's not really that doing air bike or doing the row machine or doing CrossFit is going to make me better immediately at jiu-jitsu in terms of cardio. What it's going to do is I like to think about it like this. Think about you're developing your athletic attributes. You're learning to resist lactic acid. You're learning to increase your heart with more blood flow. You're stretching your heart. When you're doing cardio, your heart balloons. Okay, your heart stretches. So then when you're stretching it on a regular basis and you're doing jiu-jitsu, your heart is used to stretching more. The more stretchy your heart is, the more blood flows through. Okay, so think about it as you're stretching your cardiovascular system. So I like sprints, I like air bike, I like row machine, I like all the devices, I like kettlebell. I think it's all good. You need to do cardiovascular endurance, and of course you need to do muscular endurance. I prefer explosive type training, high endurance, but done through explosive training. So sprints on the bike, sprints on the treadmill, rowing intervals. This is really good stuff. And on the days I don't feel like I can do anything explosive, I like aerobic work. Okay, aerobic work. My favorite aerobic work is shadow boxing. Shadow boxing, and if you're strictly a grappler, do, I would say, maybe a light jog or skipping or jump rope. Even jump rope, it could be really good. But you have to do some aerobic work because you cannot sprint every day. You cannot go full out every day. Okay, so you're going to need some aerobic work. The best aerobic work, in my opinion, is shadow boxing, even if you're strictly a grappler. Why? Because you're learning a skill. You're learning how to elbow, how to back fist, how to do a Superman punch, how to teep, how to low kick. You're learning skill. So why run on a treadmill when you could be developing a skill and doing your cardio? Salam, coach. I know you can't talk about fighters you train, but Jose Aldo fight is news for your is huge news for your brother. That's from Christopher Garcia. That's right, guys. My brother's fighting Jose Aldo in Montreal. We're super pumped for that fight. We're super excited about that fight. I can say that I'm excited about the fight. I won't tell you guys our game plan, how we're training, all that. We can't talk about that, of course. It would be a very unprofessional, but I'm super excited about that fight. I'm one of Jose Aldo's biggest fans. I've been following him since the beginning of his career. And of course, he's a legend, so it's a huge opportunity for my brother Ayman. He's fighting a legend of the sport. It's kind of like a title fight. You know, the name is so big. You know, Jose Aldo he's up there with GSP, Anderson Silva, Fedor, BJ Penn. Like, his name is colossal. So for us, we're super excited. Everybody's super energized about this, and really happy to have it done in Montreal. It's going to be a wild night for us. What do you think about Taporia's decision to move up? What kind of success you see him having, knowing that tough fight with Jay Herbert? That's from John Deere. Look, I think it's great. It's really gutsy of him, but I would have liked to see him fight and clean out the division. I know he beat the two best featherweights of all time, but there were, maybe past their prime. Maybe, I'm not sure. It's hard to say. We're gonna have to see their future fights. I would like to see him fight Lopez. I would like to see him fight John Silva. John Silva, in my opinion, he's 1 or 2 fights away from people demanding he has a title shot. There was Lopez still to fight. I think he should have stayed in featherweight and clean out the division thoroughly. There's going to be other big wins coming, so it would have been nice to see him clean out the division completely, or at least attempt to, I should say. Moving up to 155, I think it's great because he's talented. He has the power to do it. He definitely has the power to do it. But like, you remember BJ Penn. BJ Penn went up to 155, and he had the power to do it. BJ Penn had already won the 170. When he fought George at 170, he had already beat Matt Hughes in the past. Then he went down to 155, beat Sean Shirk. He looked incredible. He looked unbeatable. The UFC was saying, we have nobody to fight him. Like, everybody was like, there's nobody to fight him. He completely dominated Sean Shirk. Then he moves up to fight George St. Pierre at 170. Thing is, George St. Pierre is too big. They're both super talented. But George St. Pierre is much bigger, physically bigger. He's a bigger man. Now, could BJ Penn win? Of course he can win, but he also got severely damaged in that fight. If you guys haven't seen that fight, you need to watch George St. Pierre versus BJ Penn, the rematch. Okay, part 2. The first fight was very tight, very close, very controversial. A lot of people thought BJ won. A lot of people thought George won. It was a big controversial fight. In the rematch, though, it wasn't controversial at all. Every round saved the first one. The first one was close. After that, George just completely took over. And BJ Penn took a lot of strikes in that fight. He took a lot of damage in that fight. He left us on a stretcher. They took him out on a stretcher. They took him straight to the hospital. Actually, no, wait a second. Did he go straight on a stretcher? No, I think that was the rematch with Matt Hughes. I think he broke a rib. I was there for that fight as well. I think after the George St. Pierre fight, I think they took him to the hospital, but he didn't necessarily leave on a stretcher. I'm misremembering. I think it's his rematch with Matt Hughes, actually. Long story short, he took a lot of damage. Why? He was fighting a much bigger guy. So I think it could be very great for Taporia, but also he had more fights at featherweight that I think he could win. So why not clean out featherweight? 55 is always there. In my opinion, yes, he has 2 great featherweight wins, 2 amazing featherweight wins. In the same year, he knocked out Max Holloway and Alexander. But if Lopez beats Alexander and Max Holloway loses another one and loses another one, I know Max Holloway is going to 55, it could take away from those 2 victories because people are going to be like, yeah, but we didn't know they were over the hill. I'm not saying they are, okay? I'm just saying that in hindsight, people say that kind of stuff. Like, for instance, if you have a really popular fighter who loses once and everybody's shocked, everybody's talking about how this new guy beat him and he's the best, and then this fighter that was a legend who had his first loss or a bad loss has 3, 4, 5 losses in a row, people are like, oh yeah, well, he was on a slide. We didn't know. That was just the first of many losses. So you have that coming down the pipeline. If Alexander gets knocked out by Lopez, if Max Holloway starts going on a string of losses, which I do doubt, it could take away from the prestige of the wins that Taporia had. People are just going to be like, hey, he was at the right place at the right time. Now, I don't think he was at the right place at the right time. I think he's that hard of a puncher. I think he's that slick of a boxer. I think he's that talented of an individual, but I would definitely love to see him fight Lopez. And after Lopez, I think personally, Jean Silva is going to be making a lot of noise. Okay, so and there's many other guys, of course, that are going to be making a lot of noise, but there's at least those 2 fresh faces that he should have fought. Okay, guys, don't forget, I'm always doing super chats and non-super chats. Salam, coach. My teammate Sean Brady is getting ready for Leon Edwards. We were even doing southpaw drills in class today. Who do you have? That's from Ryan Budin. You know what? That's a tough fight to call. I wonder which Leon Edwards is going to show up. You know, that's really what I wonder. Leon Edwards is a very dangerous guy. You know, I've never been in the practice room with him, but I know, you know, of course I followed his career, but I know he's a very, very dominant fighter. He's a very skilled fighter. I just wonder which Leon Edwards is going to show up, because if the Leon Edwards that showed up that fought Belal, I don't think he wins. But if it's the classic Leon Edwards, the one that fought both times, that fought Kamaru, I think he wins. I think his experience and his skill is going to win. Hey, coach, how often should a fighter do strength and conditioning? That's from Arthur. I would tell you a little bit every day. After you finish your martial arts training, it's time to do weights, or it's time to do running, or it's time to do air bike, or it's time to do calisthenics. It's time to do your isometrics. It's time for some kind of physical conditioning, okay? Most combat sports, they do a little bit every day. They don't set out 2 days of the week to do their conditioning, okay? So if you look at boxers, if you look at wrestlers, if you look at kickboxers, if you go to Thailand, they don't do like, oh, we do strength and conditioning on Saturday and on Wednesday. No. It's every single day. They run, they do their Muay Thai, then they do their calisthenics, they do their pull-ups, they do their neck training. It's every day they do a little bit. You know, if you go and wrestle with the Olympic team, they do conditioning almost every single day. You know, some days they might take it off, but there's always conditioning. There's a lot of conditioning, okay? I think it takes a long time to get really conditioned. I had one of my students, you know, he did like air bike for like 3 weeks, and he walked up to me and he's like, hey, coach, you know, like, I did what you told me. I did the air bike, but I don't feel my cardio is any better. I'm like, really? Like, how long did you do? Like, how many, you know, what did you do exactly? It was like, I did it like 4 days a week for 3 weeks. I'm like, okay. And you think the cardio is going to be better right away? No, I said, tell me after 3 years. Do it for 3 years and then tell me how your cardio is. Of course, when you look back at yourself 3 years from now, you can be like, oh, I didn't have any cardio at all. I wasn't in shape at all. 3 years on the air bike, not necessarily just air bike. I mean, like, regularly using the air bike. Of course, you're going to do calisthenics. Of course, you're going to do plyometrics. Of course, you're going to do weights. You know, you're going to work with the stretch band. You're going to work with the kettlebell. But in your routine, you have that air bike. Your cardio over the years is going to reach black belt level. It's kind of like saying, hey, coach, I did jiu-jitsu for 3 weeks. How come I'm not better at jiu-jitsu? How come I'm not dominating the mat? You know, it's like, how come I'm not the best grappler in the practice room? How come I'm not like significantly better than I was 3 weeks ago? Well, 3 weeks of jiu-jitsu is not a lot. It's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. You know, do 3 years of jiu-jitsu. And if you haven't gotten better now, well, something's really wrong. What can Bryce Mitchell do to win versus Jean Silva? That's from Jax. Jax, I think that's an upward battle. I think that's a very hard fight for Bryce Mitchell. I think Jean Silva is just too quick, too slick, too intelligent, his distance control is too strong. Now, there's always a way to win a fight, but this is a very difficult one. I actually just met John Silva. We took a picture together. I asked him for a picture. I'm a big fan of John Silva. I'm like a really, really big fan of his. In terms of his skill and watching him fight, I watch all his fights. I mean, I find the guy to be incredibly, he's very calm in the ring. He's very, in the octagon. He's very precise. He's very powerful. He's going to be a problem, man. This guy's a real problem for anybody. How could Bryce beat him? Look, I would tell you he has to take him to the ground. He has to strike with him carefully, intelligently, and he's got to get this fight to the ground. Now, nobody's really taken John Silva down to the ground. Jourdain took him down to the ground a little bit, yes, but we didn't get to see too much of his ground. Where do we see? Actually, he did a little grappling with, who was it did he grapple with? I'm forgetting now. But he looked, you know, he's Brazilian. He knows jiu-jitsu. Like, he lives in one of the top places in the world for jiu-jitsu. Bryce is going to have to take him down and keep him down, because standing up, I guess I got to tell you, like, if you watch the Drew Dober fight, the elbows he was landing, the shots he was landing, that's Drew Dober. Drew Dober is a killer on the feet. Drew Dober is he's a powerhouse. He's a Muay Thai champion. Like, he's a killer. Drew Dober is no joke on the feet, and he was catching Drew. So Mitchell is not the best on his feet. It's not his thing. He's got to get you to the ground. Now, his last fight, he fought Gracie. So even Gracie on the feet, I felt like he kind of got tagged a little bit. We're talking about John Silva, man. John Silva is another world. So I think he's got to take him down and keep him down. How he's going to do that, I have no idea. That's a tall order. Marathon runners cannot keep up with Merab. That's from Eric. Eric, don't ask me to try to explain Merab. I have no idea how his cardios can be. So it's I've never seen anything like it. It's just I can't explain it. And I don't care if you do his routine. If you followed Merab every day and you did his exact workouts, it's still you wouldn't be like Merab. Like I'm sure Aljamain works out with him, obviously. And I'm sure Aljamain, he's not a crazy guy. Aljamain is gonna be like, hey man, what routine are you doing today? Oh, maybe he's pushing sled. I don't know what routine he does. Maybe he's going for a swim. I'm sure Sterling's like, oh, let me try that with you. Let me do exact. Like, I'm sure these guys are not crazy. They're like, hey, you know what? Let's follow this guy's routine. This guy's cardio is incredible. Maybe there's something to it. I think it's partially genetic. It's partially genetic. And of course, he trains like everybody else. Who knows? Maybe he does have a special formula. I just don't think it is. I think it's probably genetic. He's a freak. He's just a cardio freak. Having trouble hitting the Ryan Hall roll, Imanari style, rotating to backside 50. Any tips? That's from K. Dot. Who did I recently see do it? Somebody did it recently. And I was like, wow. I was really happy to see it. Somebody did it recently. Who was it? What fight was I watching? And he scored it actually. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, Farid Bashrat was fighting a Brazilian guy. His last fight, Hugo. A guy UFC hit it. I was very surprised. Listen, I was really surprised to see that because it's not an Imanari roll. Imanari roll, yes, that's something like we've seen before, but the Ryan Hall roll is very unique, and he does it differently. It's not the same thing. They're two different rolls. Ryan's roll is better, in my opinion. Ryan Hall's roll is better. It's more, it's harder to avoid. It's harder to see coming and harder to avoid. It takes more skill to do. It's tricky because you got to kind of turn your back to your opponent. It's kind of scary, But the only man to teach it to you has got to be Ryan Hall. You got to go fly to Virginia and sit with Ryan Hall and ask him if he'll teach it to you. Because I'll tell you something. I've never seen anybody do it like him. I've seen guys try it. I've seen guys do it a little bit, But the way he did it is it's another level. Covering it in Ashi Infinity 3 would be awesome. Listen, maybe I have a Ryan do a guest appearance on. Because look, I don't hit it like Ryan. I'm nowhere near that. Like, it's not a move I use very often. Sometimes I play around with it. I have fun with it. But it's not a move that I've really mastered. So you really need Ryan. Ryan's the man. Hey guys, excuse me. I got to put a troublemaker out. No. One more trouble gets the dust, bites the dust. Boom, gone. All right. Guys, don't forget to use the promo code, get 55 off. Use that promo code. It's on the bottom of your screen. It's in the description. Get 55% off anything on jujiclub.com. Okay, guys, I just released professional shadow boxing. It's a bunch of lessons on how to train. Of course, you can use those lessons on the bag, but the whole video is like how to shadow box like a pro. There's techniques we use. Of course, I could have made that volume 8 hours long. It's a 2-hour long volume. It's about 2 hours long. It's full of info. It's like a year's worth of drilling, okay? Salam, coach. I'm a purple belt under Danis. I feel good with certain leg lock. How to start from scratch and fill in the holes of leg lock system. That's from the Grappling Ninja. Well, leg locks is a thinking man's game. It's a lot of details. Leg locks is not easy, man. If you're not doing jiu-jitsu 6 days a week, don't worry about the deep stuff. Just do basic leg locks. But if you're doing jiu-jitsu 5-6 days a week, okay, I would tell you jump in the deep end because it's worth it. It's leg locks are super dangerous. They're super powerful, but it's a deep game, guys. I'm telling you, it's a deep game. Don't go around chasing people's legs because here's the thing. When you go for a leg lock, you're giving up your leg too. It's impossible almost to fully protect your leg when you're going for a leg lock. So you want to be really good at leg locks. If you're going for leg locks, you want to be really good at leg locks. Now, sometimes you come across a guy who knows nothing about leg locks and you know the basics, you'll leg lock him. But to fill in the holes, like you say, to go really deep, you're at purple belt level. At purple belt level, now it's time to go really deep in the leg locks, but you need a 5 to 6 days a week type of training. You need to have that level of experience on the ground. I'm a 170-pound grappler. How heavy should my kettlebell be? That's from Chad. I would recommend around 55 pounds. Okay, I would start with that. If you have experience and you're a good athlete, if you're a total beginner, I would start with 35 pounds, then 45, then a 55-pound kettlebell. Now, it's always good to have all three because you can do different things, and it's good to go from heavy to medium to light, sometimes drop sets. And those gyms, for me, I call a kettlebell, it's a gym. You know, it's a gym you carry with you. You're going anywhere, like let's say you're going on a road trip, not on an airplane. It's a gym, and it's a gym you can hand down to your kids, because a kettlebell, you could do so much with it. For me, I'd say it's like a gym. It's not a kettlebell, it's a gym, the whole thing. I mean, you could do presses, you could do Olympic lifts, you could do plyometrics, you could do grinding lifts, you could do high reps, you could do so many things with a kettlebell. You could do cardio with a kettlebell. So for me, it's like, it's a gym you put in the corner. You know, you take that kettlebell out of the corner, all of a sudden you have a full gym almost, almost. Hey coach, I've got a tournament this weekend. Sometimes I get gun shy and stall. My best attribute is wrestling. Should you recommend shooting immediately? There is no headlock submission in under 16. So no guillotines, I imagine. Well, look, I don't believe you should do anything immediately. Like if the guy's not in position for you to shoot on him and you shoot on him, yeah, he's not allowed to guillotine you or anaconda choke you, but he could snap you down, take your back. He could chase the back and put his hooks in and beat you. Okay, so I think everything's in its time, because you're trying to kind of like saying like, coach, I want to go in there, but I don't want to think. No. You got to think when you're fighting. You can't just say, hey, here's the formula, and this formula is going to guarantee me a win. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay. You know how to double leg. You know how to snap down. You know how to underhook. You know how to single leg. You know how to arm drag, and these things, when you go in the fight, you got to use them all at once. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to default double leg. No, because the guy can score on you. There's no one move you can do that can't be countered. Okay, so if you shoot a double leg, the guy takes your back and you lose, and you're like, hey, coach, you told me to shoot. Well, shooting comes with risk. Okay, so you got to set it up. When the window opens, you got to shoot. But you got to set it up. Okay, guys, sometimes I'm not answering a question because somebody already asked it. Okay, so don't spam it, because if I answered it, I'm just going to gloss over it and not answer, okay? Okay, guys, let me see here. What do we got next? Do you have cage work video made easy coming? Rotulo video, awesome. That's from K. Cage work video, actually, I want to do a cage work video, but not yet, because I have other topics that I want to cover first. The cage work video, I think, might come after another couple of more wrestling videos, because I don't think you should learn cage work until you've done fundamental wrestling. I do have a bunch of wrestling videos out already. They're really well reviewed. People like the wrestling system that I put out, and they like the way I teach. So I'm going to do more of them. It's just finding the time and get in the gym and film. But those videos are coming. And definitely cage videos are going to come out eventually. That's no doubt. Coach, what are your thoughts on Shavkat Rakhmonov? That's from Nicholas. Nicholas, I'm really a huge fan of Shavkat. Like, I watch him and it blows my mind. His last fight was actually really interesting. It's the first time he didn't get a finish, and it was a seesaw battle. He got his back taken. It's like I'm intrigued by this fighter. Like, seems unstoppable. But his last fight, he looked more human. Actually, you know what? You're giving me the itch to go back and watch that fight. I'm not remembering how the first round went out, but it was a very competitive fight. It was a very interesting fight, and I think obviously he's going to be in the title contention. He's one day going to fight for the title. I'm really excited to see him fight. But for me, I don't understand how he gets the wins. I don't understand how he's doing it. Like, he's super successful. It's crazy how successful he is. But I can't put my finger on what is it that's making him successful. So for me, it's like, I'm fascinated when I watch him. Purchased strong and stable. Just purchased strong and stable knees a couple of weeks ago. Have knee positioning spine positioning in the back of my mind in every movement. That's from Matthew. Matthew, I think you mean the knee positioning. Guys, there's a section in Strong and Stable Knees called knee positioning, how to position your knee. And of course, I teach you how to keep your spine neutral. I teach that in every Strong and Stable video, in every one of them. So if somebody gets strong and stable neck, I'm teaching him how to stabilize his spine. Like right now, I'm slouching a little bit, but my spine is stable. So you can slouch as long as you stabilize your spine. It's the same thing with your knees. Whenever you work out, you want your knee, there's a correct way to position your knees. Now, here's the thing, okay? I know there's so much controversy on knees. Here's the thing, okay? We got to remember, when I'm in the practice room, I want to give my tendons a break. But coach, you're going to be like, coach, don't you want to stress your tendons so your tendons can get stronger? Yes, of course. If you stress your tendons will get stronger. But here's the thing, okay? Muscles recover a lot faster than tendons. Tendons are the slowest recovering part of your body almost, okay? Because they get very little blood flow. Your tendons get very, very little blood flow. So when you're doing jiu-jitsu, when you're doing wrestling, when you're doing MMA, when you're hitting the bag, your tendons are getting a workout. And then you go in the practice room and you tack your tendons again. Well, guess what? The next day, you better have the day off. You can't tax your tendons so much that when I go in the weight room, I'm trying to put a barbell on my back and hit the tendons. No. We want to hit the muscle. The tendon's getting a lot of work already. Don't forget, we're grapplers, guys. We're wrestling. We're doing jiu-jitsu. Sometimes you want to stress the tendon when you have a special need. Like, for instance, I show in Strong and Stable Knees when I go knees over toes and all that. Not for progressive overload and not for high reps, a small amount. Why? Because the recovery of the tendons is very slow. So you got to give it little doses, and you're already getting so much action when you do MMA. But imagine somebody came up to me and like, hey, coach, I can't kneel. Like, I'm standing up, I can't even go down on my knee. This is very rare, guys. I've seen that maybe once in my career. A guy can't put his knee down on the mat. Okay, so I get him a box and I make him put his knee down on the box. And then the box gets progressively slower, and slowly I work his way down to the mat. Okay, and I'll do this over time. But I tell the guy, look, if you can't go from standing to kneeling, don't do any jiu-jitsu. Don't do any MMA. You can hit the bag, you can do boxing, but don't do any kicking. Why? You don't have the mobility. If you don't have the mobility, I won't ask you to go do jiu-jitsu. So it's all like, depends what the body needs. You know, we're going to put the stress in the correct place. Now, when you squat with your knees behind your toes, you get more torque in the hips. Studies show 1,000% more torque. And in the gym, you should be developing your hips, because that's where power comes from. Okay, that's where power really comes from. Of course, it comes throughout the whole chain, but the hips is the hardest part to transfer, to make the biggest gains. Okay, so you want to work those hips. If your hips are powerful, your double leg is going to be more powerful. Your sprawl is going to be more powerful. Your punch is going to be more powerful. Salam, coach. Why do fighters mimic the Henry Cejudo career path when it clearly didn't go well for him? Is the notoriety and prestige of a champion not worth pressure it brings? That's from Charles. Charles, I don't know what you mean by that. His last fight, I was there actually. I didn't get to watch it all because there was so much drama going on around me at the time. And I did watch most of the fight, and I saw a nasty eye poke. And he was taking his 5 minutes, and the crowd started booing him, which I thought was completely unfair. I mean, the guy got... Here's the thing, guys. I find it crazy. When an athlete gets poked in the eye, and I from what I saw, he got poked in both eyes, and I saw blood in his eye. They zoomed in on him, and I saw blood in his eye. Guys, that's a very bad injury. I've seen the toughest guys get poked in the practice room off camera, and believe me, they all collapse. I've been poked in the eye really badly, 2 times in my life, really badly. And I'll tell you something, it is horrendous. I've seen guys get poked in a fight, the referee not see it, and they fight their way out. And I'm like, how on earth did you do it? It's a really bad injury. Now, not only when he got poked, he got booed. When he started fighting again, Song was pawing his fingers towards his eyes. I was like, well, that's crazy. And Jason Herzog was the referee. He's a great referee. And I got to talk to him. The next time I see him, I'm going to ask him. Because it blew my mind that this injury just happened. And it was severe. You saw it on the replay. It was a very severe eye poke. And then because when you're fighting, you're not allowed to point your fingers towards your partner's eyes. Your fingers have to be pointing up, or you have to make a fist. Okay, so your fingers have to be, this is okay. If you're measuring like this, it's okay, they tell you. but you can't go like this and measure. So Song is measuring like this. I'm like, dude, you just poked the guy in both eyes. The guy's blind. The guy literally has blood in his eye. So for me, look, I think Cejudo fought hard, man. He fought hard through a very bad injury, and to me, he's a lion. I can't believe the crowd booed him. I wish I can go out there and poke every guy who booed him, just so they could see what it's like, just so they can have an idea. Because getting poked in the eye and having Song throw punches at your head, that's not a good scenario for anybody. I don't care how tough you are. And I got to ask Herzog, because I don't understand why they allowed him. Why is Herzog allowed this? I think when an athlete sits on the stool and says, I can't see, the fight's over. There's no starting the fourth round so the fight can go to the cards. I might have missed something, but for me, it didn't make any sense. The guy's on the stool. He's saying, I can't see. That's it. The fight's over. You're not starting the fight again. It doesn't make any sense. I can't wait to see Herzog again. I'm going to ask him. I'm just curious. I want to know, because I would want to know how to handle a situation like that if I ever came across it. Hey, Coach, in a row between Hajer and Gordon, who would you bet on? That's from Jonathan. I've trained with both those guys. I can tell you, man, those guys are both ridiculously good, obviously. But a match between those two, look, Gordon is more modern jiu-jitsu. Let's say you took that away. Let's say just the level they got to. Because the thing is, I would favor Gordon because of the leg lock system and the back system. And he knows a more sophisticated version of jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu has evolved. It's evolved. It's evolved a lot. And he's on the cutting edge of that evolution. So he has that edge. But let's say he didn't have, because that's a byproduct of his time. That's a byproduct of his time. If he was before Hajer would have the more sophisticated system. You can't compare that. That's something I think that if you took that away, if you equalize that somehow, okay? We're doing a fantasy fight here. Man, I don't know, man. You know what? I'm going to ask John Danaher that question when I see him next. That's a good question, man. That blew my mind. That's a good question. Coach, thoughts on the Bivol fight? That's from JS. Jess, I didn't get to finish it. I started the first 2-3 rounds, then I had to run to practice. I didn't get a chance to finish it. But I looked, the first few rounds, Bivol was really active. He was really getting ahead. So I can't wait to see the rest of it. My opponents keep escaping my north-south choke. What can I do to prevent them from getting on their side and popping their head out? That's from Rad. Let me tell you something, okay? I've been choked by Marcelo with the north-south choke, okay? And he just beat Imanari with a north-south choke. I'll tell you something. It's crazy tight, his north-south choke. He showed it to me. I trained with John Danaher, and a few of his guys do north-south choke, and I've trained with them, and they taught it to me. And Carl Pravik, Silver Fox, was on this show, on this channel quite often. He does it. I'll tell you guys, I score maybe 1 to 2 north-south chokes in a year. I don't do it often. Why? Because when I get it, guys turn to their side. Now, I like it as a control. I feel like I can pin a guy and control him and fatigue him, but I don't have this killer north-south choke. Marcelo has taught it to me, and I learned from the best guy, and I still can't do it. Okay. He has many black belts under him, and I don't think there's one guy that ever replicated Marcelo's level of north-south choking. I don't think anybody's ever replicated it. There's never been a Marcelo Garcia student, in my opinion, that's ever gotten anywhere near Marcelo's level of north-south choke. Now, I ask myself why. I ask myself these questions. How come he can do it and nobody else can? Some people say, oh, it's his body type. Some people say, no, it's the way he adjusts it. He's just done it so many more times than everybody else. And he's figure out how to, work out the kinks. I think both is true. Me personally, I don't have the same arm size as him, so I don't feel comfortable. My arms are a little longer. I feel like I can't eliminate the slack. I'm perfecting other submissions that I have more faith in, that I feel better with. I like arm triangle. I like side choke. I like, of course, leg locks as well. I like different type of chokes. He doesn't like side choke. He doesn't like arm triangle. He doesn't like it at all. He actually takes it out of his system. He thinks arm triangles are no good because the arm's in the way, so you're not directly on the neck. He goes, you won't tap the bigger, stronger guys. I think that's crazy. I think for me, that's my bread and butter. That's one of my favorite moves. So I think it's a matter of a difference of opinion. You know, I think you could learn 2 moves from 2 black belts. One of them works for you. And then the next guy, he likes the other black belt's move. It just works for him better. I think there are 2 things that a martial artist always needs to think about. His level, okay, how many hours and years he's putting in. Okay, that's he's gonna go up in level. But also his style. What's his style? Because he's gotta eventually pick a style. You can't do every style. Okay. So I would tell you, look, from white belt to purple belt, learn everything. Learn the basic arm bar, learn the basic triangle, learn the basic of north-south, learn the basic of leg lock, learn everything. After, at purple belt, once you get your purple belt, now you got to start specializing a bit. Don't be a north-south guy. If you went from white belt to purple belt, you weren't getting it naturally. Like, look, I have 2 students of mine that trained with me for many years, okay? Olivier Taza and Ethan Krelliston. Oliver Taza, he loves leg locks. Ethan, the same class, same practice room. I ask him, why don't you do more leg locks? He's like, they don't work for me. But he's in the same class. He's an intelligent guy. He understands it. He's very good at defending leg locks, but he doesn't really like to attack them as much. Whereas Taza is the complete opposite. He loves to attack him. If you get on Taza on top of Taza, he's going to go right away going for leg locks. Okay, this is one of the best leg lockers in the world. Now, these guys are in the same practice room for many years. They developed a different style. Same level, but different style. So it's level is one thing, style is another. And here's my other thing is I will tell you, if you don't find the style that works for you, you'll never reach your true potential. A lot of coaches, I think, in my opinion, they force a style on their athlete, their fighter, and because they're using what worked for them and they force it down their athlete's throat, their athlete stalls, he never progresses, he gets stuck, he gets beat by guys they're training less time than him. I've seen it personally. I've seen guys where their coach says no to Kimura, no to leg lock. So what happens? They get killed with those moves, you know, because they never see them or they're not aware of them. So I'm a big believer in letting the student find his way. I like to show my students everything. I tell them, look, guys, this move, I learned it from so-and-so, but I don't really do this one too much, you know. And I tell my students, but I know it. Like, even if it's not your style, learn it. Know it exists. Know that people have that option when you're fighting. You don't necessarily have to master it. Like, for instance, which move I'm not a big fan of north-south. Now, do I do it once in a while? Yes, because we're grappling and it just was there and everything aligned and boom, I got it. Do I do it often? No. The stars don't align often. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm perfecting other chokes. So don't get so obsessed with perfecting your north-south choke. How often do you see north-south choke, by the way? Like statistically. Number 1 move is rear naked. Second, I think, is guillotine. Then it's the arm triangles. Then it's the triangle with the legs. Okay? So you have rear naked choke. You have guillotines, all sorts of guillotines. You got katakatami, anaconda, darce, guillotine. Sorry, no, not guillotine, but darce, anaconda. And then you have like these, of course, leg locks. And then you have all these miscellaneous chokes. And one of those miscellaneous chokes is north-south. So why are you like breaking your head on a move that most people can't pull off? Okay, guys, we got Shiz in the house. Sub coach, isn't it unbelievable? MVP at 37 can win and make a young kickboxer like Bullet in his prime look normal. He couldn't even land a hard strike on MVP. How can MVP be faster? Question mark. His best fight so far in the UFC. That's from Shiz. Shiz, I got to tell you, I agree with you 100%. That's a huge win. MVP goes up a weight class against one of the top killers in the middleweight division. And he wins in a dominant fashion. It goes, I think, exactly to what I was just saying. The question wasn't level. It was style. Bullet's level is here. MVP's level, I will tell you, because of his experience is here. But because Bullet is younger, it's a young man's advantage. But the style, Bullet wasn't ready for that style. If you haven't seen a guy like MVP, it could be very, very difficult to figure him out on fight night. Now, imagine he was sparring with MVP for the last 10 years. and then he fights MVP. He will be like, oh, I know everything. I can predict everything he's going to do. I've seen his routine before. But I think he was taken by surprise by his style. He's probably sparring guys who don't look anything like MVP. He was doing really, really well, and he was telling himself, oh, this fight's going to go well for me. Then he got in there, and MVP was doing things that he's not used to seeing. So he was getting reactions he's not used to seeing. It confused him. MVP style is very rare. It's a very, very rare style to see in MMA. Okay, it's very popular in karate, of course. But Bullet doesn't go in karate tournaments, you know. Here's the thing. You have to remember, MVP, he adapted his karate for MMA. Like if you take Bullet and you put him in a karate tournament and you let him do his Muay Thai against these karate guys, he'll clean house. Okay, don't get me wrong, he'll clean house. But those karate guys, if they take their time and they adapt it to MMA, they learn how to box more, they learn how to spar with MMA guys on a regular basis. If they do that, they did what Bullet didn't do. Bullet had to go and spar with karate guys. Like I bring in karate guys on a regular basis. They come in, they come to my gym, I welcome them. We spar, you know, friendly sparring. I'm getting used to their style. I'm trying to understand what they do. If you don't do that, man, you could be really surprised. Believe me, you can be really, really taken by surprise. Coach, are you aware of Mujahid Fudalist work? If not, would highly recommend you for laughs and amusements. Mujahid Fudalits. Okay. Sorry if I butchered his name. Let me look it up. Hold on a second. Mujahid. All right. Mujahid Fudalet. Oh, is this the anime? Yeah, I've seen this stuff before. Like he does like anime.
We hate him. We're trying to get him beat.
It's a cartoon now showing Dana White hates Merab, and we're trying to get him beat. So he's looking at the lineup, and he's getting everybody out. He's gonna pick O'Malley.
Yes, 100%. He's ranked number 1 in the world. He deserves the fight if that happens.
It's basically Dana White kissing O'Malley, saying, "Ah, he's gonna get the fight." Oh yeah, no, I've seen his cartoons. I don't know. I rarely ever watch them. I was in one of them. Somebody sent me one time. I was in one of them. It was funny, but I don't really watch his stuff too much. But it is funny. I just don't have the time. I sparred a guy from TriStar tonight. That's from Cooper. That's cool, man. You should have dropped his name. I would like to know who it is. Paradox says, Coach, love all your work and all your philosophical and theological takes. Wish to meet you one day. Well, thank you, Paradox. You're a gentleman and a scholar. I would like to meet you as well. Hopefully you come to TriStar one day and pay a visit. Hi, Coach. What advice can you give for taller grapplers with regards to their approach to wrestling? What should be on your approach/focus when in BJJ competition? What advice can you give for taller grapplers with regards to their approach on wrestling? I would tell you, if I was a taller guy, I would do a lot of arm triangles. So anaconda, darce chokes. Like I train with the Rotulos, and I got to tell you, man, they're darce choking from everywhere. Like they're like, you could darce from here, you could darce from there, you could darce from here. I'm like, yeah, you guys could. Like, don't get me wrong, I love darce, but I don't love it like they love it, you know. But they got the arms for it, you know. They got the wingspan. You look at Marcelo Garcia, shorter arms. He's not a big darcer. He used to darce. If you look at his old instructionals, he used to teach darce. He's done darces in his competition in the past, but then at one point he dropped it. Their body is so long, you know, and they make it work from everywhere. And their darce power is like ridiculous. So I would tell you, like darce, anaconda choke, really up there. Triangle choke with the legs, of course. For takedowns, I would tell you, I really like Uchimata, which is funny because the Rutulo brothers, man, you always see them do Uchimata. Always, always, always. If you lock up with them, man, Uchimata's coming. From Uchimata, you could roll into the legs and stuff like that. And I like snap down. For the taller man, snap down. A lot of snap down, ankle pick. If you could reach to the ankle. So as you're snapping down, you can get to the ankle. You have the long arms. You drop to one knee. Ankle pick could be very, very powerful. So make sure to check out guys like Chael Sonnen and whatnot. That's a very strong system. Guys, I when I was training with the Rotolo brothers, they were showing me the buggy choke. Now I was like, dude, put me in this thing. I gotta feel it because I got a student of mine that's really good with the buggy, but I don't let him catch me with it. Like I always find my way out, and I have a few good escapes. And I'm like, look, I want to feel this buggy choke. Like you guys have the best buggy choke, and I gotta tell you something. It's tight as hell, man. It's really, really tight. But they got the length, they got the hips, they got the flexibility. So they have to show me a different version because I don't have that flexibility now. I'm gonna try to work the buggy choke for fun, but I don't think it's gonna become my move. Because I've seen guys my size do it, but they're super flexible in the hip, and I'm pretty flexible in the hip, but I'm not that flexible. You know, I just think they have another level of dexterity. It's like if you were trying to teach Georges St. Pierre the buggy choke, I think he would look at you like you're crazy. Like maybe like I can't bend my leg this way. It's impossible. Like he would want to try it, but it'd be like that would be the last thing I try to show on GSP. You know, but then you got a guy like Cade Rotolo, he puts that thing on you, you're going out. You know, he's built for this. You know, again, it goes with style. What style is right for you? You know, you could be a world champion and never done the buggy choke, or you could be a world champion and win with the buggy choke. It's not that crucial that you learn the buggy choke. It depends. Does it work for you? Would you ever train with Hixon? You think you can learn his tricks and apply it in ADCC level now? Question mark. How do you think he would do as a coach like Denahart? That's from Varun. Varun, of course, if I had a chance to train with Hixon, man, I would say yes, 100%. I've heard nothing but stories about him. Like he's the best, he's untouchable, he's a genius, and I believe it all. Trustworthy black belts have trained with him, and they all come out saying the same thing. Guys, I just also got to meet Eric Paulson. Okay, we got to chat and hang out. He was a student. He worked with Hixon, and he says the same thing. And trust me, I believe everything he says. These guys are not gonna praise him for no reason. They have no reason. They're not being paid by Hixon. Like Fabio Gurgel, one of the top black belts ever. He went to train with Hixon, and he's like, I got crushed. Like that's crazy. It's like Fabio Gurgel. By the way, he's also Marcelo Garcia's trainer. Like he's a legend in jiu-jitsu. And he's like, oh yeah, I got killed by Hixon. Hixon's the master. He's the best. It's like you get legitimate black belt after legitimate black belt saying that this guy is the best. So of course I would want to work with him. But his style of jiu-jitsu, it's like super secretive from what I hear. It's super secretive. Like he does armbar and he's discovered these secrets, but he'll never tell anybody. Only his closest friends or companions or students have been with him a long time. Supposedly, he's super secretive, even within his own family. So that's the rumor about Hixon. Coach Zahabi is ignoring our super chats. No, friends. No. Hold on a second. I'm going to get them all. Okay, that's from Shiz, the MVP question. I did that one. This one here, let's see. Coach, is modern karate that you see today really karate? Question mark. It looks like it has boxing stirred into it. A lot of stances and open-handed techniques in traditional karate aren't used. Not dissing the art, but I'm curious. That's from Mars. I think they've adapted it, okay? So I think they've adapted it for sure. Their kicks are still mechanically different, but for sure the ridge, open hand, I think they still do it, okay? Like I trained with Wonder Boy and his father, and they would talk about the ridge hand, and they would, but I don't know if you're allowed to do that in MMA. I think you are. I just think. Because I remember they were talking to me about it, like, yo, you can hit the guy like this. I just never seen them do it. You know, I just kind of forgot about it. I don't know. I'm so busy punching. Maybe I'm overlooking. Maybe the ridge hand, that's what they call it, like a chop. You chop the neck. You know, maybe it could be a really good technique. Maybe it's something I have to revisit. You know, maybe I'll be the first guy to coach and teach and have my students try. Boom, the ridge hand, hitting the guy. Like you're not allowed to hit behind the neck, but you're allowed to hit like. I think I have to actually. You know, I'm gonna ask the referees this week. Are you allowed to hit a guy with a chop to the neck, like here? Actually, I'm not even sure. I've never seen anybody do it. You know, but I know it's a technique that exists called the ridge hand. Pow! And it makes total sense because when your hand's like this, like you're getting a weird angle. So if the guy's covering, you can get through his cover. It makes total sense. So, but you're right. They're all gravitating towards more boxing. So their karate kicking style mixed in with boxing makes a lot of sense to me. Hey, coach, haven't seen you in the gym for about a month. Are you coming back after the weekend fight? That's from Ryan. Yes, Ryan, I will be back on Monday, my friends. I land Sunday. I'm back on Monday all the way to UFC Montreal. I have been away for almost a month. I had 3 fights in a row, 3 UFCs in a row. So I've been gone on the road. And I've been in Cali, Vegas, Seattle, back to California, back to Vegas. So I'm seesawing all over the West Coast, getting in some good training with the people out here on the West Coast. And I'm having a good time. But I'm going to be back with a whole bunch of new techniques. And I'm back in on Monday as my regular schedule, friends. And I'm really excited about it. I haven't seen my wife and kids in a month. Okay, what else we got here? Okay, I think I did all the super chats. Is that right? Hold on a second. I think I missed the super chat. Guys, I'm doing my best to do all the super chats. Give me a moment here. I think I missed one. Coach, you've missed my super chat. Please respond. Oh, boy. See, I hate missing super chats. It stresses me out. Oh, boy. Okay, guys, slow down on the super chats here. I'm having my computer's lagging here. I'm on the... All right, I'm zipping down here. I'm trying to do all super chats. Of course, I'm going to do non-super chats as well. Ramadan/diet plan. That's from DBK. Look, I'm doing high protein, low cal this Ramadan. Like I was doing that diet before I got on my trip here. On the trip, it was very tough to stay on my diet because, I can't get everything custom made. But I'm going back to like low calorie. I do this low calorie pizza, which is an amazing recipe. It's flour, Greek yogurt, egg white or a whole egg, extra lean ground beef, vegetables on top, tomato sauce, no cheese. I pop that thing in the oven. So I make a dough, but it's a low cal dough, high protein. And then I make my little desserts that are high protein, low calorie. I cook with protein powder and stuff like that. I'll talk about it more in the future. I'll give you guys the exact recipes. I just don't remember them offhand because I haven't made that pizza in a month. But that's literally what I'm planning to eat. I'm literally planning to eat pizza every day. I actually got gifted a Ninja Creamy. So one of my students gave me a Ninja Creamy. It's like you put like any kind of milk you want. So like a almond milk or like a what's it called? I use a lot of oat milk, and you put 2 scoops of protein. So for like 250 calories or something like that, you get this like amazing ice cream. It's supposed to be really, really good. I haven't tried it yet. When I get home, I'm gonna be trying the creamy. My wife has been using it. She's like, it's really, really good. I got it the day I left, so I hadn't had a chance to try it. But I really look forward to using the Ninja Creamy, guys. You put 2 ingredients, some kind of milk base, and then protein powder. And of course, protein powders is all sorts of flavors. And supposedly it makes incredible ice cream, super low calorie, of course, high in protein. And that's the way to do it. All right, guys, I'm going to try to hit all the super chats. Forgive me if I missed one and it expired. I'm getting a lot of lagging here because I'm on a Vegas internet. Okay. What should I eat in the AM for Ramadan for fitness? That's from Kasim. I would say go oatmeal with a scoop of protein. Why? It's super easy to digest. It's highly satiating. Okay, it's highly satiating. So the thing is, you don't want to wake up, eat, and go to bed and have something really hard to digest because you're going to wake up tired. Okay, so I really recommend, guys, my feed is lagging. I hope I'm not being cut off, but I really recommend oatmeal, protein powder. It's highly, highly satiating. Send coach 2 to 3 years to Dagestan and forget. That's from Ahmad. If I could take my wife and kids with me, it would be a dream. I would love to go to Dagestan for 2 to 3 years. Come back, wrestling machine. I think it was Islam Makhachev who said that to DC. He's like, oh, leave your child 2-3 years at Dagestan. Forget about him. You get one phone call every 6 months. And then he'll come back a wrestler, And Cormier's like, you're crazy. But you know what, man? I might do that with my kids. Coach, what's a good goal for a 33-year-old hobbyist in BJJ? That's from Shafiq. Shafiq, black belt. 33 years old is young. What's the matter with you? Get a black belt, okay? I don't care if you're a white belt now. At 43, black belt, okay? There's no other goal. If you're a hobbyist, you're training 3 times a week, it's going to take 15 years maybe. Get your black belt, okay? Why settle for anything less? Let me tell you something, guys. When you get your black belt, it's like, it's such a great feeling. I can't explain it. You know, I always say it's like, best day of my life, when my kids were born, when I got my black belt, third place when I got married. You know, my kids were born, especially my daughter. Then I got my black belt, and then third best day, got married to my wife. Like the black belt, like, okay, I'm exaggerating here, okay? I was trying to be funny here. But it's such a great feeling to get the black belt. It's, I don't know, it's like, I don't know how to explain it, man. It's such a journey. And I'm telling you, when I got my black belt, I was like, oh, now I'm starting to understand now what it is training. I wasn't like, oh, I know everything now, I'm the man. No. I was like, man, like this whole time I've been wasting so much time. Like I finally understand what it means to train. And of course, it's been, I don't know, over a decade since I got my black belt. I still think that now. I'm like, oh, finally, I just realized, you know, this is what real training is. Like, I wasn't understanding it before. Like you always keep growing, and the journey is just as fun as the destination. But it's such a great check mark, you know, because it's like, I don't know, it's just such a special feeling. Eric Paulson and Coach Zahabi collab coming up. I hope. Love Eric. That's from Chris. Chris, I love him too, man. He's a great guy. He trains the Rotulos. I got to watch him train with the Rotulos. I got to work with them all. Very sweet people. Cade won by, what was it again? Was it rear naked? No, it was an arm triangle. He's such a machine. I hope to work with him in the future. We've talked about working again in the future. I'm going to be back to Cali. I come to Cali usually I come to California about once every year and a half. So I should come back and train with them. They're talked about wanting to come to Montreal and train with us in Montreal. Of course, I'll welcome them with open arms. It'll be a blast. I would love to have the Rotulu brothers training jiu-jitsu and MMA also at TriStar Gym. All right, guys, I'm still on those super chats. As a Muslim, what is your take on current revelation of UFOs / non-human intelligence manifesting themselves to people? That's from EK Older. EK, I'll tell you something. And the Quran doesn't deny aliens at all. Okay, so I think there's other creatures. If you read the Quran, you read it carefully, Rabbil Alameen, there are other creatures. I think there are creatures that exist that are, you know, that's one of God's name, the Creator. Why would He only have created humankind? And if you read the Quran, when God tells God tells the angels He's going to create humankind, they already know a lot about humankind, and they're like, oh, you're going to create something that sheds blood, etc. They already know about this creation because there's a creation. It seems, if you read it, the subtext, that there's a other creation similar to it because it's not something new to them. So I think that opens the door to all these possibilities. What other type of creations is there? So I really believe that, yes, absolutely, there are aliens, there's other walks of life, but they should be at such a great distance or other dimensions, you know. Ultimately, me and you were just like a germ, you know. The whole planet is nothing but an atom. I see the whole universe, not the planet, our whole universe is probably like just a speck, you know, of what there is. Coach, Mike Tyson at 22 versus John Jones at 22. That's from Water. Boxing match, Tyson destroys him. MMA match, John Jones destroyed him. Now imagine you train Mike Tyson and John Jones their entire life for MMA, and then they battle. Okay, they have the same amount of training, and everything's the same. Okay, their enthusiasm for training, the trainers that they have, the hours that they put in. Who wins that fight? I'll pick Tyson. I'll tell you why. Guys, we've all seen Tyson work. His punching power is ludicrous. It is ludicrous. You know how they discovered Mike Tyson? He was a young kid. He was like 12 years old or something, 13 years old. He punched a guy in a street fight, and people were like, whoa. He doesn't know how to punch. He just like punched any which way he knew how. And they're like, man, you got to go boxing. And then Castamara, when he saw him, he's like, hey, I'm going to adopt this guy. I'm going to adopt this kid. And Tyson, in his documentary, he's like, oh, this guy wanted to adopt me. I was like, oh, I'm gonna rob him. I'm just going to rob these white people. He's like, oh, this guy's white. He's got money. He's got a business. Mike Tyson's like, yeah, I'll humor him. He thinks I'm going to be a boxer, but I'm just going to rob him. Now, if a Mike Tyson came into my gym, I would be like, hey, man, I'm adopting you. I'm going to make you a champion. You know, like, I see the gift you have. Guys, he's not 1 in a million. He's 1 in a billion. Okay? He's 1 in a billion. It's not, you know, he's not even 1 in a billion. He's 1 in like 50 billion. Like, it's crazy how talented he is. And Castamara noticed it right away, adopted him, put him in his house, trained him day and night. And he was, I think, the youngest boxing champion ever. John Jones is freakishly talented, but he's not Mike Tyson talented. I think, in my opinion, Mike Tyson, he wasn't born in the golden era of boxing, but he was in a class of his own for many years. Of course, he fought Lennox Lewis after prison. He was not the same. Lennox Lewis avoided him. Lennox Lewis left the American circuit, went to England. He didn't want to have nothing to do with Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson got old. He got injured. You know, he had bad knees at one point. You know, he even lost to Jake Paul. You know, I mean, like, he's over the hill. And, you know, I really respect Jake Paul for, like, kind of carrying Mike. You know, at the end, he kind of bowed to Mike and he kind of, like, he praised Mike. I think that was classy because Mike Tyson's a legend, man. You know, he's a real legend. You don't want to beat up an old man. Like, it's just like, you got to respect your elders. You know, the guy's an old man. He's getting in there. He needs the money. Okay, he's been up and down. Now he's old. You want to step on him? I don't like people stepping on other human beings. You know, like, I found it classy. Like, you say what you want to say about Jake Paul, but he showed class in that fight. And for that, he has my respect. Curious why you never mentioned Otmans. I don't know which Otman you're talking about. So you should have put a last name there. And I have a few of them in mind, but you'd have to be more specific. How long can you survive with Islam in the cage? That's from Ahmed. I don't know, man, but I'd have to get in. Like, do I have time to get in shape, or do I just go in there right now cold? I'm not in shape to do any rounds with Islam. No, I'd have to really get in shape. Like, that he's huge, he's in shape, he's super fit, he's the champion of the world. Let me tell you something, not many human beings can last with him. What was his last fight again? Remind me, oh my God, he fought Meccano. How long did that fight last? Hold on, let me see. Meccano. Remind me, it was like 3 minutes, 2 minutes? Four minutes and 5 seconds. 4 minutes and 5 seconds, guys. My super chat that expired. See, this is a smart man. Crusader's super chat expired. And then he went in the comments. He put that his super chat expired. And then he put his question. A lot of people are like, hey, my super chat expired. Here's my... But they don't put the question. Guys, this is a very intelligent man. Eric Fursick. No, sorry, not Eric Fursick. Hold on, I lost it. Okay, here we go. Crusader 102. Excuse me, it's Crusader 102. My super chat that expired. Crois-tu encore à ce jour que GSP a battu Hendricks? He's asking me in French. Do you, to this day, still believe George St. Pierre beat Hendricks? Yes, okay. I think it comes down to round one. Round one is the one round that's could have went either way. All the other rounds, I think, were quite distinctive. Round one, I gave it to George because George landed one extra significant strike, and it was a head kick, whereas Johny Hendricks' strikes were from the clinch, okay? And if I remember correctly, George got a takedown in round one, the first, 10 seconds. It was a control. There wasn't much to go on. It was so even round one. So you have to, personally, I don't give big points to takedowns unless you do something with it. But if that's all there is, even then, I'm tentative to give the round because the guy put the guy down on the floor, but it's like, you didn't do any damage, you didn't progress. George did attempt a guillotine, so at least that's something. Johnny kind of pulled his way out. They went, if I remember correctly, they scrambled back to their feet. At George, I remember landing a head kick in that round, whereas Johnny's strikes came from a chest-to-chest clinch, which are not very punching to the body. It's not very powerful, okay? I know he's a powerful guy, but punching from there, you don't have much leverage. Look, I'd have to watch the fight again. I might watch it again 5 years from now, 1 year from now, and maybe change my mind. Okay, but from what I remember the fight, I was very convinced that George had round one. That's why when we went to the corner, I was telling him, okay, this is the score, and I was including round one. Best attribute of Islam. And I would tell you, I think it's his fitness, like his strength / fitness, cardio. It's incredible. He seems so strong, and I only say that because he's getting black belts to tap like feverishly. You know, it still blows my mind how he got Bronx to tap like Bronx was tapping hard, man, and Bronx is a very very advanced black belt. Meccano was tapping like instantly. Meccano is a very experienced, tough guys. Like, these are very tough guys that can take a lot of pain and punishment, and he's getting them to tap feverishly. To me, that tells me that's really like that's a he's in a lot of pain. Like you saw, watch Poirier, man. Poirier could take pain. How many times have we seen Poirier in trouble and he fights his way out of it and he fights through the pain? He's a guy. He's made his peace with suffering. He's a very tough guy, obviously. But second, Islam locks his hands, man. That tells me he's got a lot of strength, a lot of endurance. He's doing that later in the fight. I think it was round 4. Like he's in a hard fight and he's still got that squeeze. He's still got that power to just pop your head off. It's a scary thing. Coach, how do you improve your footwork in MMA? That's from Floyd. Oh, check out my latest video, Professional Shadow Boxing. That's a video. A lot of it is footwork. And it's simple to do. It's not something like I'm rambling on for an hour. No, each segment is one segment and it's progressive. And then I teach you I have like 5 summaries in the video. So I show you one move, then I show you another, then another, then another. And then I show you a summary, and then we build on to that. I keep doing another move, and then another summary, and then I summarize it again later. So you get the idea of what's going on here. It's, I think, very clear. I can't wait to see the reviews on it. I expect them to be quite positive. And this is, in my opinion, the best way to do footwork. So it's not just strictly footwork, but there's a lot of footwork in there. The man from Nepal, I already answered that one, bud. So you're gonna have to rewind this this podcast because I already talked about the Cejudo fight. I thought it was pretty crazy that he got poked in the eye, and I don't think that they should have restarted it. When he said I can't see, if I remember correctly, they paused the fight. Like they talked about it, and then they were like, "Hey, we're gonna restart the 4th round. We're gonna not restart. We're gonna start the 4th round." I don't think I have to ask Jason Herzog. I need to get like clarity on that. I wasn't sure how could that be possible. Okay, guys, I don't know why, but it's not showing me. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm lagging here, gentlemen. Please bear with me here. Technical. Oh, no, I think I did all the super chats. Okay, guys, don't forget, I'm always doing super chats and non-super chats. Okay, so you don't have to have a super chat for me to answer your question. I'm happy to mix it up. Oh yes, guys, I'm scheduled to do the Jake Shields podcast tomorrow. So I don't know if he's doing it live. I don't know if he does it live. I think he does do it live. So check it out tomorrow. We're gonna be filming the Jake Shield podcast. Me and Jake. Salam, I work 13 hours per day and have been doing jiu-jitsu for 5 months, but I'm feeling frustrated and unmotivated. You think I overdid it? That's from Hassan. I don't recommend you work 13 hours a day. I think it's not healthy because it's going to catch up with you over time. You can't be very productive. You should divide your day, if you can, in 3 8-hour blocks. So 8, 8, 8. 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for family and social activities. Not necessarily an 8-hour block, but you have to spend a lot of, if you have kids. If you don't have kids, okay, I would be okay with you working more. Okay. But in my opinion, like, as I train with my kids, that's family time. So 8 hours sleep, 8 hours work, 8 hours family time. For me, that includes training because I take my kids to training, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be sitting around eating dinner or watching a movie. No, it could be anything. It could be like you're doing chores together, but you got to spend a lot of time with your family. Now, 8 hours might be a lot, but when they're kids, I do recommend that many hours. You want to spend a lot of time with your kids. If you don't spend a lot of time with your kids, the world is going to spend a lot of time with your kids, and they're going to teach them a whole other way of thinking and a whole other way of being, and it's going to kind of like separate the family. You don't want that. Now, you might be a very young man and you don't have kids. I will tell you that's why it's so important in your youth to set yourself up in the future, because you got that extra 8 hours. You got 16 hours to hustle. So I would tell you in that 8 hours, you should be doing your jiu-jitsu and whatnot. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 5 months, but I am feeling frustrated and unmotivated. 5 months is not a long time. Okay, do 5 years of jiu-jitsu and then assess yourself, because 5 months is a very short time for doing jiu-jitsu. At 5 months, you should be really enjoying yourself, though. You should be learning a lot of new things, and you should be progressing because there's so much to learn. There's so much potential for improvement. So you should be making serious gains. If you're not making serious gains, consider, maybe the quality of instruction is not great, or maybe you're not being the best student you can be. So it's either one of those two. The instruction is not great, or you're not being a good student, because when you have very good instruction and you have a very good student, that combination leads to success. This is from Awais. Is this Awais? Father passed away in 2021. I was 18 since then. Time passed very fast for me. I'm 21 with responsibility of family. Feel wasted 3 years. Want to catch up. I feel like last man in race. How can I organize everything? Well, Awais, first of all, thank you. I think that's 200. I'm not sure what that symbol is, but I appreciate it. Number one. Second of all, my condolences for your father passing. I know it can be very tough. It's a very difficult thing to deal with. You're saying that you feel that you wasted the last 3 years. I'm wondering why, because you had family responsibilities. Now, I don't think that's a waste. I think I understand what you mean. You're happy to work and help and support your family because your father's not there, of course, which, I find that very admirable. I want to say first off. But you probably fell behind in your martial arts training or education or something else. Look, you could make up 3 years. Just don't let that 3 years become 10 years. You can make it up. And I'll tell you something. Sometimes you're really behind and it gives you that fire in your belly. And that fire in your belly makes you work more. You work harder. You push more. You feel like like during the COVID pandemic, I felt like I lost 2 years. My gym was closed. Fighters I used to train went to other gyms because they couldn't get into the country. Literally, the border was closed. There was nothing we can do about it. Literally, the police was on my door every other day. They were harassing me. They were like, they want to do everything. Like, it felt like their whole purpose in life was to stop me from training. It was really insane. Like, that's how much attention they were giving me. It's like, and I would tell them, guys, I'm not a Chapo here. Like, I don't know why you're spending so much police energy on me. I'm just training a handful of guys who live in this little dorm here. Like, I'm not the guy spreading COVID. Like I'm in this gym for like with a handful of people, and it was like their death wish to end that. I lost about 2 years off and on. Like they would let us train for a little bit, then they would cut us again. They would and nobody wanted to train in Canada because nobody trusted Canada. They can close the border on you right away. Like it was such a difficult time. Then when they reopened, there was a flood of people. The energy was back, and believe me, I had that pit in my stomach. I was like, oh, they messed with me for 2 years. They messed with me for 2 years, but I'll tell you something. I'm more grateful now. Now look, I'm traveling, I'm training more fighters. That 2 years though it's still something I still have a bitter taste in my mouth. I'm still really pissed off about it. But I use that as motivation. I got to be sharper now. I got to be more enthusiastic about winning these fights and getting these training camps going. And I think you could turn that around and use it for energy. I know what it feels like to feel like you're behind. You got to have that. You got to turn that emotion into progress. You got to turn those feelings into progress. You got to wake up a little earlier. You got to go to work. You got to stay in the gym a little longer. You got to, whatever your goal is. If it's studying, I don't know if you were studying and you took a break from studying, or it's training, but do a little more. When you get burned like that, when you get hurt like that, you have even more motivation. You're going to do more. Sometimes you see world champions, they come from the worst backgrounds. They come from poverty, or they had an ailment when they were young, or their father died when they were young. And that stress of not making it, that fear, or that desire of, I have to get out of this neighborhood, or I have to get out of this situation. When they get into the gym, they put in so much more time and energy, because for them, it's not I want to, it's I have to. Listen to what I just said, okay? It's not I want to make it, I have to make it. That's a different mindset. You go in the gym and I have to make it. Or you go to school and I have to make it. You're going to put more of your best effort. Now, I remember one time my son was like, he wasn't doing well in history. And he's like, oh, Dad, I'm not doing well in history, because he knows he's going to have to give me his grade and I'm not going to be happy about it. And I'm going to lecture him about it. And history is so important. And he's like, but Dad, I'm having trouble with history, but don't forget, I'm doing my best. That's what he told me. He's like, Dad, I'm doing my best. You know what I told him? I'm like, that's the biggest lie you ever told yourself. Asked him a question. I said, look, let's say your history test is coming. And if you get a 95 on that test, I'm going to give you $5 million US. I go, what would happen if that was true? If somebody came up to you and said, hey, we're going to give you $5 million if you can get 95% on that test. What do you think would happen? I asked my son. He's like, I'd get 95, I'd get 99. I go, exactly. That's doing your best. Now I changed your motivation. All of a sudden, your best is a whole other dimension. But for my son, if he tells me he did his best, to him, he did his best. It's good. No, it's not good enough. That's not your best. That's not your best. Your best is like 90. That will satisfy me. Don't tell me you got a 60 or 59 and 61. And I almost made it. No, that's not good enough. What is your best? Ask yourself, look, if my life depended on this, could I get it done? If the answer is yes, then you can do it. But if you didn't do it, it's because you didn't want it. You didn't want it bad enough. Look, if you told me, Coach, you got to squat 500 pounds in the next 5 years. If you don't squat 500 pounds in the next 5 years, we're going to put the guillotine on you. Well, I'd make it. I'll tell you something, I would make it. I would get to 500 pound squat. Why? Why don't I squat 500 pounds? You know why? I don't really care about squatting 500 pounds. I'm not that interested. But if my life was on the line, my friends, if my life was on the line, I would make it. So these kids, sometimes these young guys are in a troubled home or in poverty, and they got to make it. That's all they got. They got nothing else. They go in the gym with a different motivation. So sometimes that 3 years lost that you had can be something to push you, propel you forward. All right, gentlemen, I missed a few super chats. Let's see here, guys, I'm always doing super chats and non-super chats. Salam, I'm a Sunni from Iran. What is your opinion on Shia? That's from Ashkan. Guys, my father's Sunni, my mother's Shia, so I'm very on the Sunni side. I really think the Sunni side makes more sense. That's my opinion. And I don't want to lump all the Shias together. There are many different types of Shias that believe many different things. They don't all agree on the same things. So I don't want to lump them all together. Okay, but I would tell you, I don't like to bring up the arguments. I think it makes too much fitna. I think it's like something only experts should talk about in like more of a closed room. I don't like the controversy. I don't like to rehash it, relive it. I don't think it's positive. I don't think it's something beneficial. But I would tell you, in my opinion, I'm more sympathetic, much more sympathetic to the Sunni side. Hey, coach, do you discipline your kids in public? That's from Floyd. No. They're older now, especially. No, I wouldn't. But sometimes I lose my temper on them a bit in the gym. Like sometimes they'll like be fighting amongst each other, and I'll just walk by them. I'm like, hey guys, are you serious? Like I might lose my temper once in a while on them, but because I find they're in the adult class, they're not in a kids class. But sometimes they can kind of like get on each other's nerves, and there's like a little outburst from one of them. I'll be like, hey, are you crazy? Like, are you serious? You can't do that here. So, kids, they can get under your skin because you spend so much time with them, and it's like that little thing they did is like the 100th thing they did that day. For those of you who are parents, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You gotta have patience with kids. You gotta have patience, man. But every parent, one time I asked one of my friends who's one of the most calmest guys, and I'm telling you, one of my New Year's resolutions is to like keep my cool because I'm a very friendly guy, but sometimes like I can get very stressed or like I can lose it. Sometimes I can get like like this year I'm gonna try not to lose my control over my emotions. I'm gonna really like do my best this year. Like I'm really gonna focus on staying calmer than I am usually, much calmer. And I have one of my friends. He's a really calm guy, and I look up to him. I'm like, man, this guy, man, he's so zen all the time. He's so calm. And this friend of mine, he has kids, and I was like, let me ask you something. Do you ever lose it and yell at your kids? And he's like, yeah, it does happen to me. I'm like, wow, because I've never seen him yell. Like I've never seen him yell. I've been friends with this person for 20 plus years. I've never seen, and I've spent a lot of time with this person. I can't think I've ever seen him yell. I've seen him get mad a little bit, but not mad like mad, just like mad like, oh, this is really not making me happy. I'm really upset with this, and that's all you get. Like he doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't like, his head doesn't start popping. It's just very calm. So he's got kids, and I'm like, what about the kids? Do they ever get under your skin? He's like, oh yeah, I lose my temper on the kids. I'm like, do you yell? He's like, yeah, I raise my voice, I yell. I'm like, wow, that like makes me feel a little better because sometimes, not now because my kids are older, but when my kids were younger, sometimes it can, a kid can be very, very, of course you love your kids, but they can be very annoying sometimes. They can have the, what do you call it in English? Like, not fits, they can have fits, they can tantrums, tantrums when a kid's having a tantrum over and over again. It's like the sound of a screaming child, ugh. Coach is a gentleman and a scholar and a mob boss. That's from Ryan. That's funny. Sergio de Freitas, thanks for all your knowledge for us. Would love to meet you from one coach to another. That's from Sergio. Sergio, come on down, man. Visit me at TriStar. I'll definitely be happy to meet you, my friend. Should I move gym? Question mark. My gym only has 2 black belts, 2 purple, and 4 blue belts. I like training with those guys, but what you thought, coach? That's from Saul. Saul, it all depends, It doesn't mean because you only have 2 black belts, it's not doomed, but it does help to have more advanced belts in the room. I think I like a mix. I think you should roll with more advanced belts and lesser advanced belts. There's positive in both. You shouldn't just always roll with black belts because you're going to become too defensive. You're never going to get to combine your offense, so it's not necessarily a good thing to only roll with black belts. I think there's more factors to that. Are they giving you attention? Are the classes well structured? Is the rolling competitive? Is it good? Is it good rolls? You get good rolls when you get in. I wouldn't boil it down to just the number of black belts in the room. But I would tell you, in my experience, it helps to have more than that. It does. Definitely, there's still a big element. Guys, please don't spam the chat room or else you're going to get put in a timeout. Actually, wait, let me undo this. See, I banned this guy for life accidentally. Okay, 5-minute timeout, guys. Because sometimes I don't answer the question because I already did answer that question many, many times. Just come up with another question, okay? Thoughts on Nassim Taleb. You're both Lebanese. That's from AK. I don't really know too much about him, so I'm not familiar with his main arguments or his work. I did read one of his books once upon a time. It was called slipping my mind. It's a really popular book. It's just slipping my mind now. It's where the book was titled. He made up a word. I'm just slipping my mind right now. What do you think is the age limit for a man to be world champion? Paradigm shift now where people don't believe age being a factor and T levels don't drop. No, age is a factor. Okay, age is definitely a factor. The thing is, you can be world champion in your later age. It's the age you start that most matters, I would say. Personally, in my experience, and Tudor Pampa wrote a book. It's called Periodization. It's a fantastic book. Periodization by Tudor Pampa. It's a must-read for any trainer. In the beginning of the book, he shows you all the data he collected. He collected the average age of every world champion in almost all the sports you can imagine. From wrestling to gymnastics to running and to pole vaulting. These world champions, what age did they start in what sport? So the best age for wrestling is he'll tell you 9 years old, or most world champions started at this age. And you'll see that almost every sport, it's right before puberty or even sooner. But rarely is it after puberty. Rarely. You'll never see in this sport, there was many, many world champions and they all started at the average age of 19. No, that doesn't exist. So I would tell you what really matters is what age you start, and how old you fight is usually how much miles you have on you. How many times, how brutalizes your body. Now, in my opinion, some people brutalize their body unnecessarily. Excessive sparring, improper form while training, not enough recovery time, not enough physiotherapy, or I believe in doing your own physiotherapy. Okay, I don't go to the physiotherapist. So I think not knowing these things, things like knee positioning, neutral spine, neutral neck, over the years, you're going to aggravate your joints. Okay, decompressing the spine on a regular basis. These are things you should do to keep your body healthy. I think people who get old, they just don't know any better. That's the truth. They get old too fast, too quick. They had another 10, 15, 20 years more. But they approached it the wrong way. And that's why they banged up their body. It's crazy to me how little people know sometimes about proper training. Best age to put kids in gymnastics, wrestling, or some other sport. That's from Water. I will tell you, for gymnastics, as soon as they allow you to register, so 3 years old, put them in gymnastics because it's fun. They're not doing flips and stuff, but they're building the foundation. Wrestling, I would say 6, 7 years old, because before that, it's very hard to teach them anything. I would rather they go in gymnastics. Belal Muhammad started in his early 20s. That's from X. He's an exception to the rule. Okay, he's an exception to the rule, and I'm not sure if that's true. I'd have to ask him. And also, don't forget, he's in a relatively new sport. So when he was 20, the sport was still very new. MMA is getting more and more refined. One day, MMA is going to be like boxing. Only guys who started really young. And then once in a while, you're going to have the Bernard Hopkins. The guy started very late in his life, but he's very, very talented. He's very explosive or whatnot. You're going to have exceptions, yes. But those are far and few between. Don't forget, Tudor Pampa's work was on average. Okay, don't forget, when you do an average, you take out outliers. There's always going to be outliers, guys. So if I tell you, hey, what's the average Chinese person's height? And I tell you, it's 5'5". I'm not sure what it is, okay? And you tell me, why no, a Chinese guy who's 6'7". It's yeah, you're right. He's an outlier. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. There are people who are Chinese and are also 6'7". It exists, sure. It doesn't mean their average height is the same as in Scandinavia. Doesn't mean that. Outliers exist in every statistics. Every time you take statistics on large, by a large amount of data. You're going to have some outliers. You got to eliminate the outliers to get the true average. Yao Ming, 7 feet tall. That's from Truth Seeker. Truth Seeker knows. He's got stats. Coach, do you watch Street Beefs? Good for amateurs? That's from Robbie J. Which one is Street Beefs again? Hold on, let me look. Is that the one where they put you in the... I showed this on the channel. Didn't I? Street Beefs? Oh, yeah. This is it. They put you in a cage. This is crazy, man. This is crazy. Street Beefs. Sometimes I do. I've showed it on the channel here. I've played it on the channel. It's quite crazy. Street Beefs is quite crazy. Okay, guys, we are in 1 hour and 30 minutes in. Are you a car guy? What kind of cars do you like? That's from Patty Cake. No, I'm not really a car guy. You know, look, I drive a Mini Coupe. Okay, I'll tell you why I drive a Mini Coupe. One time, one of my students was going on vacation. He was like, he didn't have a place to park his car. Because, you know, he'd have to change the car from one side of the other. So while he's on vacation, he's going to get a lot of tickets. Every second day, he was going to get a ticket. So I was like, look, I have a driveway. I'll park it for you. He's like, oh, you know what? Drive it. You're going to love this car. I'm like, really? What is it? It's a Mini Coupe. So I take the Mini Coupe and I drive it for a week or so out of the camera. I loved it. I loved getting in the Mini Coupe. It was like driving a go-kart. Now me, I'll tell you something. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it's a phenomenal book. Okay, I don't care how much money you make. I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a very, very good book. And I know a lot of you finance guys are going to laugh at me and be like, oh, coach, that's so basic. Yes, you're right. But I was a young kid who didn't know anything about money, and I was interested in like learning the basics. And in the book, he talks about, you know, he has a rich dad and a poor dad. But basically, the number one lesson you get out of it is like, some things you buy, they're an asset, and some things are a liability. If you buy something and it goes up in value, that's an asset. So if I buy gold and gold goes up in value over time or it retains its value, that's an asset. If I buy something and it goes down in value, that's a liability. So let's say I buy a pair of regular shoes. I bought them for $100. 2 years from now, how much are they worth? $10, $5 at a garage sale? Now, what if I buy, I don't know, a 56 Chevy? They don't make those no more. I buy it for, let's say, 20 grand, 50 grand, let's say. I don't know how much they cost. 10 years from now, that thing's going to be worth even more. Why? They don't make them no more. That's an asset. Now, when you buy a car, like a Mini Coupe, that's a liability. So I'm like really strict on not buying fancy cars because I found like it's the worst thing. You buy a brand new car, you drive it off the lot, it goes down 30%. Now, I personally have never bought a brand new car in my entire life, not because I can't afford it. I just think it's totally crazy. I'm going to pay, let's say, 50 grand for a car, and you drive it off the lot, it's worth 30% less. You just lost 15K right there. Boom. I just drove it up. I just drove it around the block. It's worth 15K. Yeah, it's lost 15K. It's gone down 15K about. So maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you guys get what I mean. Cars go down in value. So me, I always buy used cars. So for like a year and a half, I was looking at Mini Coupes. And one day I found this Mini Coupe that was right on my budget. Because me, when I buy a car, I buy it full out. I don't do payments. Okay, if you read the, I think his name is David Ramsey. He talks about no monthly payments. Okay, now I know there's a huge debate on whether he's right or not about that. Some people say no, debt is good and all that. I don't want to get into that, but that's one thing that hit me. He was like, no monthly payments. And I was looking at my finances and I was like, man, I get hit every month with these bills. And at the time I was driving a Jeep and it was costing me like, I don't know, like $450 a month. And I was like, man, it's true, he's right. So I love Jeeps, by the way, guys. That's my ultimate car. My favorite car is Jeep. Actually, you know what? The Jeep, no, I never bought a brand new car, even the Jeep, okay? But it wasn't that old. I paid off my Jeep at the time. So when I was buying my Mini Coupe years later, I bought the Mini Coupe. I found the perfect price. It was all-wheel drive. I bought a Mini Coupe. I just love driving Mini Coupe. I don't know why. I still drive it to this day. Here's the other things. I've banged up my Mini Coupe. I've gotten in 2 car accidents with it. My Mini Coupe, when I bought it, it was a pearl. It was a really nice car. Now it's trashed, man. It's just like, I'm almost embarrassed driving it. But here's the thing. If I had bought a brand new car and I had crashed it twice, one time it was my fault, one time it wasn't my fault, I would be like so pissed off with myself. I'd be like, man, I spent this much money. But because I bought it used, because it wasn't that expensive. I didn't really care, you know. I crashed it twice. I wasn't really upset about it. I'm like, whatever, you know. I just went on with my life. I just didn't even think about it. So that's the other thing is I know guys who I train. They buy an expensive car. They're always worried about their car. They're always worried about, oh, did it get dinged, or where could I park it? It's like, dude, man, I don't want that kind of headache. Now, I have friends with really nice cars, and I appreciate the engineering. I really do appreciate the engineering. I've been in Ferrari. I've been in like super fast cars and all that. It's incredible. Like, these are machines, you know. But would I ever buy one? I don't think so. No. If I was ridiculously rich, I still don't think I would buy one. Foreman was heavyweight champ up to basically 50. Opinion? That's from Mo. Mo, he's an outlier, and I don't know if you saw that fight. He was fighting Michael Moore, and he was getting killed. I think it was the 11th round. He hit him over with a weird punch. Okay, he hit him with like an overhand, like we call it, like what do you call it? What do you call it when you throw the basketball like this? What do they call it again? You know, you're not shooting like this, but you're shooting a hook shot. It was like a hook shot punch. Boom. And he flattens Michael Moore. It was crazy. One of the craziest heavyweight fights you ever seen. And George Foreman could barely move. He was just like a bear. He was like trying to crossbody. He's getting hit. Michael Moore is lighting him up. Between rounds, George Foreman wouldn't sit. And they asked him, George, why aren't you sitting between rounds? After the fight, they asked him, why aren't you sitting between rounds? He's like, if I sit, I can't get back up. He can't get back up off the stool. It was an insane fight. So, something to watch. Coach, have you ever met someone who won the lottery? That's from Bink. Bink, I know a guy whose sister won the lottery. And he told me after 2-3 years, she had lost all the money. She got scammed out of her money. And then I was like, what, really? And there's a lot of money. She's like, yeah, people made her invest here. She gave like money to each family member. She lost it all in like 3 years. And then I came across a statistic later on. And most people who win the lottery lose the money after 5 years. Hold on, let me look it up. It's some kind of crazy statistic. How soon after on average? More often or not, lottery winners have a losing track record of hanging on to their winnings. Roughly 70% lose it all within 5 years, regardless of how much their luck earns them. Think about this, gentlemen. Think about it. 70% of them lose all their money within 5 years. Isn't that crazy? Dude, you give me like $5 million, man, I ain't losing that money. Like, I mean, I'll be very careful with it. That's the thing. I ain't gonna go buy a fancy car. I ain't gonna go, if you give me $100 million, I'm still not gonna go buy a Ferrari. I'm just gonna buy a nice car, something I can use, a nice house. I'm not gonna go full out crazy. Why? Because I wanna invest that money. I wanna leave it for intergenerational wealth. I wanna build intergenerational. I wanna invest in people's projects. I wanna like do something positive, you know. I'm not big into collecting things, diamonds, jewelry, shirts. Oh, I have 8 pairs of these shoes, one in each color. I got all this, I have 30 pairs of sunglasses. I'm not that type of guy. I like one good pair of sunglasses, maybe 2 in case I lost 1 pair. I like some nice clothes, you know, a little bit, not too much. I like to live like normal. You know, it doesn't matter how much money I have. You know, like, of course, when I take a vacation, I might upgrade to a nicer room, sure, for a little bit, but I don't want to go too into that. Some people that's their whole life, you know. You know, what luxury did I experience today? You know, I went on this flight and I had this luxury, you know, and then I got off the plane and I went to this place because it has the top luxury. And their whole life is like finding every luxury they can. It's just like, I just don't find it that exciting. For me, it's more about the people I'm with, and the environment is good. It doesn't have to be tip top. Like, now I'm at a really nice hotel, okay, but like, I could be in a regular room. It wouldn't bother me. You know, like, I was invited to be here. I'm a guest. Okay, so they're treating me nice. But if they invited me and it was a regular room, I would also be okay. It wouldn't change my mind of why should I be here or not. Salam, coach. What do you plan to do after retirement? Farm life? Question mark. That's from the man from Nepal, who's really from Nepal. You know, I always want to teach. You know, I feel like something I'm going to do the rest of my life. I hope to do the rest of my life. maybe not at this level, maybe not traveling the world, and maybe maybe not so intensely. That could happen one day. I might lose that desire to like keep like putting so much, because guys, I'm telling you, training camps are a lot of time and energy, and I love it. I love it. Like if I told you what I did today, man, it was pretty rough. It was a rough day. It was a lot of training today, but I love it. But at one time, I might not want to be. Excuse me. There might be a time where I might not want to be so many hours in the game. But I'd still want to teach at like a community center, like I teach kids 2-3 times a week, help them out, just share the lessons, the jiu-jitsu. And they're not competing necessarily for the highest level, but they're enjoying jiu-jitsu, MMA. They're learning, they're learning how to defend themselves and stuff like that. I can see myself doing that, but I could also see myself like, I like business. I like to like invest in businesses and like help people start their careers. I also like that too. So like being an entrepreneur, like an investor in people's projects is something I really like as well. I've been rewatching all your podcasts on Spotify, first time live. That's from Abdil. Well, welcome to the live show. Today is not my regular hour. Usually I do it on Wednesdays, but I'm on Las Vegas time. I'm here in Las Vegas for the fight, so that's why I'm not usually doing it at this time. Right now here in Vegas, it's 11:40. Excuse me, it's 10:45. So that would make it 1:45 in the morning on the East Coast. Adam Rogers. Okay, Jared Cannonier and Daniel Rodriguez started at 25. Jeff Neal 20. Brian Battle 21. Belal at 23. Adesanya at 19. And Pereira at 21. That's from Adam. Adam, I agree with you. In MMA is still very young. Okay, it's still very, very young. When was the first UFC? It was 25 years ago. You're going to see a generation of fighters that started very, very young, at 5 years old. They started grappling and they were boxing and they're going to be light years ahead. So look at MMA 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Those fighters wouldn't last today. So you're right, but believe me, that's going to end. Eventually, it's going to be more refined, like in sprinting, like in basketball. People are going to start at a very, very young age, like in wrestling. If you want to be a world champion in wrestling, if you want to be an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, you didn't start at 23. You didn't start at 23. So our sport, MMA, it's not as refined. Okay, we're still figuring out better ways to do things, better ways to train, new strategies. It's all being refined. Now, it's going to take a long time to be refined. It's going to take years. I'm going to be dead on the earth, and it's still going to be refined. Like, think about it. Wrestling, the Egyptians wrestled. Boxing, the Egyptians wrestled. Kickboxing, the Egyptians did it. Like, these sports have been passed down from generation to generation. You can't compare MMA, jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is also very young, to boxing and wrestling. Boxing and wrestling have been around a lot longer. Now, you could say, oh, yeah, coach, they had pancreas. Pancreas died. There was a long time where people were not doing pancreas. Think about it. Wrestling came out of pancreas. You're not allowed to do submission holds because they figured out, hey, the guy who gets put on his back usually loses. Because if you guys ever hear about the records on pancreas, the winner would be crippled and the loser would be dead. That's how violent it was. Pancreas was the craziest sport. It was too violent. Even the winner would be hurt for life. He'd be injured for life. Okay, not always, but many times. Don't forget, it was very brutal, right? So they were like, hey, look, why don't we just pin each other? Because the guy on top usually wins. So let's just fight, and whoever gets on top will declare you the winner. That's how I think it evolved. Now, there was wrestling also in the Egyptian time and the Greek, ancient Greece. So you had pancrasian and wrestling. It was two separate sports. Still, though, I think they figured out that, hey, the wrestlers, the guys who get on top win. So let's just leave it at that. Let's stop this whole crazy pancreas stuff. Thank you, 49. I appreciate you, man. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you. Coach, are you saying Fedor is the MMA equivalent to the baseball's Babe Ruth? That's from Charles. Charles, you know what? I don't know enough about baseball. I know who Babe Ruth is, and I've seen him, on TV and all that. And he was like a big home run hitter, and he was like a truck, Is he the Fedor of Is Fedor the Babe Ruth of MMA? I don't know. I would have to ask a baseball expert that knows MMA. Coach, ever listen to Led Zeppelin? That's from Water. I couldn't tell you one song. I'm sure I've heard the most famous song because if you played it, I'd probably recognize it because that sounds like a very well-known name, Led Zeppelin. I've seen that name everywhere. But I don't know. I couldn't tell you one song. I have no idea. Coach, how do you adapt training and fight practice for something like King of the Streets? Very realistic self-defense scenario environments. What's King of the Streets? Oh, let me look that up. King of the Streets. Oh boy, it's one of those backyard cage fights. Oh, don't tell me it's those crazy guys in the parking lot. Oh God, this turns my stomach, man. This is insane. Okay, are they fighting on cement? Oh my God. Guys, I can't put it up on screen, but they're bare knuckle. It looks like they're fighting on cement in a cage, like a chain link fence cage. Like it's not a cage with padding. It's just literally a cage. Okay, yes, they're on cement and they're wearing shoes. They're bare knuckle. This is insane. Oh my goodness gracious. This is violence. Oh my God, this turns my stomach, man. Ugh. I hope there's not like headbutt rules or anything like that. These guys are crazy, man. But what's interesting is they're not on mats, so they're going to have to adapt the grappling. Oh, one guy's getting crushed here. Guillotine, he tapped. Okay, they stopped it. At least they stopped it. He tapped and he stopped it. Ay, man. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. I think MMA is dangerous enough, guys. That's enough extreme for me. You know, I'll probably watch it because I want to see the difference of not having a mat and stuff like that, but I don't enjoy seeing human beings get brutalized. Coach, react on Emily Willis case. That's from Tanvir. I don't know who Emily Willis is. Emily Willis case. Adult star Emily Willis left permanently disabled after rehab stint for ketamine addiction. What is this? Family of Emily Willis seeking compensation for a life-changing ordeal 1 year after the adult film actress' real name, Litzy Banuelos, received the care from Malibu Lighthouse Treatment Center. Her family has filed a lawsuit alleging depending adult abuse, negligence, professional negligence, and unlawful, unfair, or fraudulent business practices due to the 25-year-old's current incapacitation. The lawsuit filed December 27th, obtained by pop-ups. Damn, those pop-ups. Okay, so I don't get it now. She had a drug addiction, dehydration, urination, tract infection. Willis continued to reside in care of Malibu Rehabilitation Center. Doctor detailing her declined condition, and she was found unconscious on February 4th, just over a week after she was admitted. So she went in there for a week. She was found unconscious, subsequently given CPR, transported to a nearby hospital, according to the filing. Okay, guys, she's an adult star who I think had some kind of addiction. I can't read it all now. It's too long, but it seems like they mismanaged her condition. So I don't know how to react to that. You know, that's like something for subject matter expert. They got to go to court. They're going to figure this out in court. They're going to bring out subject matter experts. We're going to be like, hey, was she mistreated? Was she not taken care of properly? Coach, do you ever look up Sui token? No, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to study it. I've really been off crypto. I've seen it's crashed. Let's see what crypto's at today. I haven't been following it, guys. I've been on the road for a month. I'm back in Montreal on Monday, guys. Back in TriStar Gym Monday. I land Sunday. I'm going to be there. Oh, $86,000. Bitcoin's at $86,000. Guys, if you wanted to buy, this is the time. In my opinion, I would jump on it. Ethereum, 2,300. That's not too bad. This isn't Canadian, by the way, guys. No, excuse me. I think it's American. Is this Canadian or American? No, I think I'm reading it out in American. Hold on. Let me look. Yeah, USD. So it's 86,000. That couldn't be Canadian. What am I saying? Goodness gracious, no, it'd be horrible. I wonder, what's the Trump coin at here? Let me see. Trump. That was one of the most shady rug pulls ever. The Trump coin. MAGA, Trump, no. Official Trump, $13, guys. Wow. Oh my God. I hope you guys did not buy Trump coin. It dropped 55%. It peaked at 73, and now it's at 13. Oh, I hope you guys didn't get rug pulled by old Trump. I don't know how that's legal. How could the president push a cryptocurrency like that? Coach, when you were younger, your beard was trimmed in thin lines. Did you try to look like Lebanese singer Masari? Be honest, Coach. That's from Squared Circle. Squared Circle, you're a funny man. I got sick of that look quick. I had a thinner line here, and it was just too much work. And I actually like it better like this. But, I tried different things. I just find it looks better like this. But also, it's kind of like annoying to always have to shave. I'm pretty lazy when it comes to shaving. Masari, he just sits in a chair and they do it for him, and he has this precious face, they can make him look good. Me, the more you cover up, it's better. What do you think about what Chael Sonnen said? He said that high-level wrestlers won't be able to cross over into MMA like they used to. That's from Abdul Shakur. Maybe in the future, because they have focused so much on wrestling, and then when they convert, they're not going to have that edge because those kids are the new generation. They're going to have understood the importance of wrestling. They're going to have such a strong base that he won't be able to close the gap because of the striking, problems. So I think now it's still an open door because the sport is so young, but in the future, it could become very true. I think it's becoming more and more true because before it was like, hey, throw a wrestler in there, he's going to win. Now it's not like that no more. Now the wrestlers are struggling a lot more. It's just getting harder and harder. You don't look bad, Coach. That's from Pontus. Come on, man. Listen, I really appreciate you trying to make me feel better. I really appreciate it, but come on. Let's be realistic here. Guys, you're going to make me blush. Thank you. Thank you very much. Coach, did you have any fun with the Diaz bros in the George Nick build-up? What happened in the hotel elevator? That's from Hamza. Oh, man. Listen, I like the Diaz brothers, but they hate us. They despise us. I have nothing against them. I think, I think they're great fighters. That's for sure. Okay, as fighters, I respect them. That's 100%. As human beings, I've had Nate be nice to me a little bit. Then all of a sudden treat me like he hates my guts. I think whenever he sees his brother, like if his brother's in the vicinity, like I think he changes the channel. Like he's gonna back up his brother to the end. And I get it. He's fighting George. I get it. But let's fight in the cage. Like it was just such like the UFC had to really keep us separated. The elevator incident, I think, was just George being a gentleman. George is not gonna hit the guy. He doesn't want to. George is not the type of guy to start a fight. Now I'll be honest with you. I'm not the type of guy to start a fight either. Like, if I see somebody get aggravated, I'll be like, hey, man, why don't you cool off? We'll talk later. Let's try to squash it. I always try to squash the beef first. But here's the thing. If the guy persists and the guy persists and the guy, okay, well, it's going to happen. And George is very much the same way. But George's threshold is higher than mine. Like, I lose my cool a little bit quicker than George. And I shouldn't. But I think like, George is like my role model in so many ways because George gets antagonized a lot more than me. Like I get antagonized here and there sometimes by guys who are being idiots, but I'm not talking about the Diaz brothers. But I'll like try to avoid the situation. I'll walk away. I'll tell the guy, hey man, listen, why don't you stay on your side? I'll stay on my side, Then maybe I'll tell him, hey, if you're calm, we'll talk. If you don't want to talk, I understand. You choose, you decide. I'm a very like let it slide type guy. But George is even more St. Pierre. It's crazy, man. Sometimes people do stupid things, bad things, and he'll be like, I don't care. But I'll tell you, he also has a limit. I don't want to get into it, but like he also has a limit. Now, Diaz was like doing everything to instigate the fight. But the thing is, George is the type of guy, he's like, I'll fight you, but for millions of dollars in the cage. George is a very smart guy. He's not going to let you, I heard a quote recently. It was really, really good. It was like, if you let people anger you, You're letting people control you. Think about it. If George would have hit Nick or whatever, and the fight's off, Nick's injured or whatever, he just lost millions of dollars. Like, by not letting Nick make him angry, he's controlling himself. He's not going to let Nick control him. I love that quote, man. I was like, wow, that's such a great quote, man. I wish I could. I gotta focus on controlling my emotions even more. I won't let people control me by triggering me. I think it's such a great, I was reading this book, actually. It's called Calm. It's really, really good. And it talks about that so much. It's talking about how, like, if you let people trigger you, they're basically deciding for you. You got to have a negative emotion, then there's got to be a space of time. It's very stoic, right? That's what stoicism is. Something happens to you in your life, what matters is how you react. It's not what happened to you that matters. It's how you react. 80% of the result is how you react. It's not what happened, it's how you react. I think it's such a brilliant thing, but easy to understand. It's not complicated, but it's hard to live. So I think I'm doing my best nowadays to live it more. Like, I try to do my best, but I want to do even better. Now, George, in my opinion, St. Pierre, it's crazy how good he is at it. And even in the fight, because sometimes you'll see him get hit, and he's really calm. He gets hit. Doesn't get angry. Like, sometimes you get hit, and you're like, oh, man, I'm going to pay this guy right back right now. And you're like, oh, this guy thinks he can hit me with this. That's the worst idea. That's the worst. Who did I see recently get knocked out like that? He got hit, he got angry, he went to brawl, he got knocked out bad. It's not coming to mind, but you see it. You see it in the fight. The fight gets heated. The guys are hitting, they're striking. They're forgetting what they were trained to do. And they get too heated. But life is like this. You get aggravated, you get upset, this is bothering you. And all of a sudden, you make a bad move. And I find St. Pierre, I don't know if it's his martial arts training or his personality naturally, because naturally he's a very calm guy. But Diaz was doing everything to get under his skin, like absolutely everything. And when George fought him, he was super cool with it. And then after the fight, they made a documentary. Now, let me tell you something. Diaz was like doing everything to antagonize George. The documentary comes out. Me and George and his manager were watching the cut for George's approval. I'm not kidding you. They depict Diaz as like a guy who's trying to get under George's skin. And it was accurate. In my opinion, it was very accurate. And George, after the screening, they asked him, how'd you like it? He's like, look, you guys made Diaz look too bad. You made him look like he's a bad guy. You made him look like, he's a bad person. I want you to reshoot it, re-edit it. I don't want that. I was like, damn, man. Like, you beat him. The guy ran after you. The guy insulted you. The guy called you names during the fight even during the fight. And now they're telling the story, and you're like, hey, I don't want to be hard on the guy. I'm telling you something, that blows my mind. Like, shows you what kind of person he is. I'm like, wow, man. Like, there's no consequence for George to make Diaz look bad now. He beat him. He'll never have to fight him again. He already got paid. This documentary is going to be even cooler if Diaz is the bad guy. Like, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not agreeing with it. But you could see that the guys who shot the film, they wanted to make sure that everybody knows that Diaz was not nice about their fight. And George didn't have it, man. He's like, no, I don't like it. It's not good. It's got to be, don't depict him as the bad guy. Don't make him like they were putting every sound bite you can get from Diaz, And he's like, no, don't make him look bad. He's not a bad person, this and that. I was like, wow, man. It's crazy. He didn't care about making the video good. He's like, don't be negative towards Diaz. He respects Diaz as a fighter. He didn't want to depict him as a bad guy. I was like, wow, man. I tell you something. I learned a lot from George, man. Not just how he fights, but how he is as a person. It's really incredible. Salam from Germany. Can you talk about the Lebanese Civil War? That's from White Shadow. White Shadow. I've been trying to look into it. I'm not even that familiar. Okay, my parents fled the Civil War, so I should know a lot about it. Unfortunately, I don't. So I'm kind of looking more into Lebanese history because I'm unfortunately not as schooled as I should be. So give me some time on that. Okay, I'm gonna try to answer that in a while from now. But my parents told me about the Civil War. That's why they left Lebanon. That's why they left. That's why I'm in Canada. Coach, what do you think of Rashad Mati? He was an MMA prodigy but turned pro in boxing. He is the one boxer who could be UFC champion. Search him his video. What did you say his name was? Rashad Mati. Let me look him up real quick. Rashad Mati. Rashad Mati. Versus Ryan Garcia. Okay, no, he's a high-level boxer. Oh, no, this is an amateur fight. So he's fighting for a long time. 3 years ago, pro fight. Well, look, I'm not going to watch all his fights right now, but I'm sure he's very talented. I'll save it for later. Yo, Coach, just joined. Where you at right now? Hassan, I'm in Las Vegas, man. I'm here for the fights, bud. I'm here for the fights. Gonna be a crazy weekend. Coach, does training Muay Thai help with social anxiety? That's from Strider. Yes, of course. Almost all sports do, but especially Muay Thai, man. Muay Thai is a great way to get over social anxiety. Why? Because you're going to train with a bunch of people. You're going to get into your personal space. You're going to have to hit each other. So you're going to have to progress until you're comfortable, because, you're developing a trust. I'm hitting you. You're hitting me. Let's not go too hard. Let's have a good workout. It's fantastic, man. Martial arts is one of the best ways to get over social anxiety. I really recommend it. Jiu-jitsu as well, of course. Okay, guys, let's end it now. We're 2 hours in. Let's end it on a fun one, guys. Give me something fun to end it on, and I'm going to call it a night. Coach, have you watched Dizonoid fight against Samat? That's from Chris F. Yes, I have. I believe that was an exhibition, if I remember correctly. Let me double check. Samat versus Dizonoid. Samat Dizonoid were two legendary Muay Thai fighters. This fight was the biggest and considered the fight of the year. No, it was a real fight, though. I think it was an exhibition, though. Dizonoid was declared the winner. He defeated Samat with his signature knee strike, often considered to be the most dominant aspect of fighting. Well, he went to a... Dizonoid never lost, actually, so that's why I was wondering if it was an exhibition. But he did have a draw with Sagat Pichendi, my trainer. So they had a draw. Dizonoid has a draw, and with Sagat. But he beat Samat, which is incredible. Because if you guys don't know who Samat is like the Muhammad Ali of Muay Thai. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it with that question. That was a fantastic question. Thank you very much. Guys, don't forget, use promo code GET55 off. It's on the bottom of your screen. Get anything you want on jujiclub.com. And I'll see you all in the next episode. Thank you.